Welcome to Growing Artist Castle Creations. We're going to be doing a craft today, ages 3. It's recommended for ages 3 to 6, but everyone can do it. Today we're going to use some shapes to create our own castle. And some of you may be familiar with your shapes, and some of us are just learning our shapes. And here's an example of shapes that we're going to be using to create our castle. We're going to use circles, triangles, squares, rectangles, and ovals. And of course, this shape is a diamond. So before we get started creating our castle, let's learn a little bit about castles. I bet we've all seen a castle before, but I think it would be fun to kind of first talk a little bit about castles. And maybe while we're looking at castles, we can see some shapes in these pictures of real castles. So, castles. What are castles all about? Castles are strong buildings. They're usually made out of stone, and usually a really important person built castles, like a king or somebody who's really wealthy. And they used castles to keep themselves and their army and all the people they ruled safe from attacks. These are towers that have something called battlements, and those look like little squares up there, doesn't it? And those are the top of the towers. And this is a drawbridge. This is a bridge that you could actually lift up, and then no one could get across the bridge and into the castle. So if you didn't want anybody in your castle that day, you just lifted up that drawbridge and it kept people from coming in. Some castles had dungeons. Those were like prisons, and most of those were normally underneath the castle. This would have been a great hall. Inside the castle, there were large rooms, and this was the largest room. And this is where all the feasts and parties were. And I bet you there was music and even dancing. This is a pretty cool castle and even has a flag on top. This is called a keep. And this is a beautiful castle. And see all that water around that castle? That's called a moat. And they dug a deep ditch and filled it with water. And that moat helped keep everybody in the castle safe from any enemies. And remember the drawbridge? Well, when they wanted to let people in, they lowered the bridge and people could walk in the castle. And if they didn't want anybody in, they would pull up that drawbridge and nobody could get in because that moat kept people out. And lots of castles had beautiful little features on it. Like, look at that, that's beautiful, a parapet. This is a porculus. This was where when you walked into the castle after they lowered the drawbridge, you could come in, but see that gate? It was made out of metal, and they would just pull that down if they didn't want people to come in. This is a part of a castle, a tower, and it didn't have really large windows, but sometimes it had little bitty slits. What kind of shape does that little bit of rectangle look like? Right, a rectangle, I said it. This is a tower, and in the tower, castles would have lots and lots of stairs. There would be a spiral staircase. And see in the middle, what do you see? What shape do you see? I see a circle and then a lot of little circles. This is a suit of armor. This is something that knights would wear to protect their body. And that's really, I would imagine, very heavy to wear. This is a tower. This would be a great place to stand on top and you could see for far away. And see those windows? What shapes do those windows look like to you? They look like rectangles to me. And this is a turret. That's that round thing sticking out of the castle there. It made castles look very beautiful. And castles didn't have a lot of windows, and all the windows that they did have were really up high, so nobody could get inside. They'd have to have a really long ladder to get inside. And some of those windows look like ovals to me. Do you see any other shapes in this picture? And that is the end of our castles. That was fun. I saw a lot of shapes on those real castles, didn't you? So now I think it's time for us to use our shapes and create our own castle. So I'm going to show you what we're going to be creating. We're going to use some paper, and we are going to create our own castle using some shapes. And look, I even made a drawbridge that could open and close over the moat to let people in or keep people out. And let's look at some of the shapes that we see in this picture. I see triangles, circles, a rectangle, an oval. I also see 1, 2 tall rectangles, and here in the middle, there looks to be another rectangle. So let's use these shapes to make our picture, and let me show you what we need. You're going to need some paper, and it could be any color paper you have around the house. You can use white paper if you want, because we can color our shapes with crayons or markers. We need a pair of scissors. So if you have scissors at home that are just your right size, that'd be wonderful. Otherwise, you can have a grown-up cut out your shapes, or an older brother or sister. We're going to need some glue. If you have glue sticks, that works great. I have a bottle of glue, so I'm just going to use this. If you don't have glue, or you don't have a glue stick at all, that's okay. You can use some tape. Tape will hold down our shapes too. So I printed out some shapes off of the computer, but if you don't have that at your house, that's okay, because there's lots of fun things at your house that you can find that are shapes. So do you know that a cup is, what shape is that? A circle. This is a big circle, and if you turn this cup around, that's a smaller circle. And you can actually put that down on paper like this, and then you could use a crayon, and you could even trace around that shape, and you could make a circle. What other shapes then you think you can find in your house? If I wanted to make a rectangle, I could use maybe a deck of cards. That's like a rectangle. Or I could find maybe, if I'm doing your parents are doing some painting around the house, I found a painter's chip. That is a very long rectangle that you could trace around on a piece of paper. And maybe in your pantry or on your shelves, you could find things that, like this. And there are squares. You can turn it around. More squares. So it's kind of fun to go around your house just to find things that are different shapes. And I kind of had fun finding all of these and using those. So for this project, you're going to need one piece of paper to put your castle pieces on. You're going to need a bottle or a glue stick. You are going to need 2 tall rectangles. You're going to need 1 large rectangle, 2 triangles, any color that you want. You're going to need 4 little squares. 1 rectangle for our drawbridge, and an oval shape for our door of our castle, and 2 circles for our windows of our castle. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our large rectangle, and we are going to glue it on our paper. Okay, so I'm going to use my glue, and if you're using a glue stick, that'll work good too. I like glue sticks, but I had a bottle of glue, so I'm just going to put a little glue on there, and then I'm going to find right down to the kind of almost to the bottom of my page, not quite to the bottom, because I'm actually going to make a moat. I want to make water around my castle, a moat, so I'm just leaving a little room, and I'm putting my large rectangle right there. And then I am ready for those 2 long rectangles that we cut out. And we are going to glue them on either side of our castle square, our rectangle. So, and you know, I'm looking at my rectangles and they look maybe a little long. So if I want to make them shorter, you know what I can do? I can put those together. I could get my scissors and I could cut some off. Now my towers, because that's what they're going to become when I glue them on my castle, are a little bit shorter, and I kind of like that better. So I am going to put some glue on those and glue them down like this. Nice. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Put some glue on there. And I don't use a lot of glue when I'm using the liquid glue, because then it'll make a puddle. So now I have my rectangle in the middle, my large one, and my 2 thin rectangles on the side. So it looks like I have castle towers. So, but my castle towers now need a roof. And I think a really great shape to use for a roof, something pointy. You know what shape this is, right? Triangles. So I'm going to use my orange triangle and a red triangle. And like I said, if you don't have colored paper at home, that's okay. You can use regular white paper and you can just color it. You can color your own shapes, your own colors. I like to do that too, but Miss Alice, she has some colored paper, so that's what I'm going to use. So now I put my 2 triangles on the top of my rectangles. And now it's starting to look like a castle, isn't it? So I think the next thing we're going to do is, do you remember when we saw the tower and it had the battlements, it had those squares on top? I think I'd like to do that. So we had 4 squares, small squares that we cut out. And so those I'm going to use for the top of my rectangle right there. So let me set those right there. And I'm going to put some glue on my paper. I'm going to put them right there. 1, put 1 right there on top, my large rectangle. 2, put 1 kind of close to it, but I don't want them to touch. I still want to be able to see some of the background paper so it looks like that battlement tower that we saw. There's 3. Now let's do 1 more because we have 4 squares. We're going to use that last one and put it right there. And so now that's looking pretty good. Look what we can make with shapes. So we're missing some stuff though. I think we should add some windows to the tower. And remember what we learned about castles. They didn't put their windows really low because they didn't want people to get inside. They put their windows up at the very top. So I have 2 smaller circles. I have a green one and I have a blue one. And we're going to put them up high. So we'll put some glue on the back of my circle and glue the green one over here underneath the orange triangle. Then we'll take the blue circle, we'll glue it underneath that red triangle. And now we have 2 windows on our castle. But we need a way to get into our castle. So let's find our oval. I found that oval, and an oval is like a circle, but it's longer. It's an egg shape, isn't it? So this oval is pink, We're going to use that for our door. We want people to be able to get into our castle. So I'm going to glue it right here, down here, on top of that first rectangle that we put on our paper. I'm going to glue it right here. So we have our oval door ready for people to come in. But what if we don't want people to come in? Do you remember the drawbridge? Let's make our drawbridge. So we're going to need our rectangle. And this is our purple rectangle. And the trick about making a drawbridge is we don't put glue all over. We just put glue at the bottom. The first thing you're going to do with your rectangle is put it on the table. And you're going to just bend the very bottom. See how I bent just the bottom of our rectangle? So now it's just a little bent, right like that. And we are going to take some glue, and we are just going to put glue right on the bottom of that rectangle where we bent it. So let's just put a little glue right there. There we go. I'm going to put a little bit more glue on there because I really want it to stick. All right, so I am going to glue it just like that. Look, it looks like it's standing up. I'm gluing it at the very bottom of my oval, right here, just like that. And now I have a drawbridge that I can close, and if you make sure you don't glue it right here, you can open it too. So now we have a drawbridge for our castle to let people in and out. And so we made a wonderful castle with some really cool shapes. Rectangles, squares, circles, triangles, and ovals. And of course, our drawbridge was that rectangle. And now the fun part is we can decorate with crayons, or if you have other things to decorate with, you can draw maybe if you want to draw a knight in here at the opening of it. You could have someone saying, "Hi, how are you?" And I'll draw like a knight. I'm not very good at it, but I'm going to try. It's fun to draw. So there's my knight. I'm going to put his helmet on. And I don't know if he really looks like one, but I did it and I'm pretty proud of myself. He's like, "Hi." He'll be smiling, kind of like a smile. And there's the knight saying, "Hi." We'll close it up, open it. And I want a moat. So maybe I'll make some water down here, so that our castle is safe and protected by water and that moat. And maybe I'll put even, I think, you know what? I think I will put something in my moat. Maybe I'll put an alligator in my moat. I don't think anybody's going to want to go swimming with an alligator in there, do you? I'll make him green. And I'm not really great about making alligators, but I'm gonna try, and I think it's fun. So I'll give him a tail, and give him some teeth, and give him an eye, and he's swimming in the water. And look, better beware, because my moat has an alligator in it. So what kind of things can you decorate with your castle? So have fun creating this castle with some simple shapes, some paper, some crayons, some glue, and some scissors. And I can't wait. I hope I get to see them. Post them if you would like online on our Facebook page. I'd love to see what you learned about castles. So have a wonderful day. Keep looking for shapes around your house and see what kind of things that you can create with